proof of existence of God. What the existence of God? Let us assume a scale. I call this the ilm scale. This scale goes from 0 to 100. 0 means you have no knowledge. 0 is basically the equivalent of before you were born. You had no knowledge, you had no conscience, you had nothing. Before even the beginning of universe, there was no knowledgeable thing to think about because it didn't exist. And let's term 100 as the most knowing. You know, every single thing that is knowable, every single thing that ever existed, you have knowledge of. You have knowledge of every single letter, every single paper that was ever produced, every single data that was ever produced by human history from the day the universe began. Let's call 100 God because it is something that is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. 100 is basically everything that ever existed before time itself. Even it predicates everything because it knows everything that ever is known. So let's term 100 as God. Now, I ask you, what would humans rank on this scale from 0 to 100? 0 meaning nothing, 100 meaning God. Most individuals, let's say we say 10%. We know 10% of what is actually knowable. 10% is by quite a bit if you actually think about it of what is actually fully knowable throughout history. Let's assume 10%. And let's assume a chimpanzee is about a 1%. A chimpanzee probably knows about 1% of everything that a human knows. A 1/10. Let's say, for example, when you take a chimpanzee, its intellect is very limited compared to a human. Imagine two chimpanzees. Would you ever assume them to be having a discussion about, let's say, Wi-Fi? Would it ever even occur to them, such a thing as a Wi-Fi, to be able to communicate between two different lands through something that is not even visible, through something that does not has physical presence? It wouldn't even cross their mind. It wouldn't even be something they would even, it's outside of their realm of knowledge. Even if you got a human to explain them the concept of a Wi-Fi, it wouldn't even penetrate their knowledge because it falls outside of what is knowable to them. They have no way of grasping this concept. They are very limited in what they can absorb from what you tell them. Similarly, a person is also limited. Our intellect can only take us to a certain extent. Anything after that, even if an outside force that knows more than us, let's say a creature that comes to us with 50% knowledge, if they start talking about concepts that fall outside of our 10% of knowledge, it would be gibberish to us. It wouldn't even make sense. We wouldn't even be having a discussion because it would be outside our realm of knowledge. Now consider a scenario. I give you a scenario where a human is able. We get a human and we can download every knowable information to them onto their brain using let's say via a USB chip. We can download every single paper that was ever published, every single internet document, every single code that ever existed, every single knowable thing that ever we could possess. We could download into this human. Now, imagine what sort of knowledge this person would have. Let's say, on that same scale, what would you say that person would score now with all this knowledge? If you say 100%, this means that this person has achieved God. This is basically now, it has knowledge of everything. Even prior to when time itself began, it was always present. It knew everything. Therefore, it has reached the level of God. Therefore, you confirm the existence of God because you created a thing by giving it all the information that ever existed, 100%, and now it is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient because it knows everything. Now, this is 100%. This is what we call God. But if you say that this is impossible, an atheist would tell you that this is impossible and 100% would never be achievable. Okay, so we ask, what level would be achievable if we could? What sort of percentage would we be able to actually acquire if we were to download this information onto this person? Let's say 80%. Let's say we will never ever be able to achieve 100% because that would mean God. Let's say if we were to download everything onto this person, he would achieve maximum 80% knowledge. 80%. He would still lack 20%. 20% would fall into the realm of having control over time, seeing through people's conscience, seeing through unseen things. The realm of this universe doesn't stop them. They can see outside the laws of this universe. Let's attribute this 20% to that sort of power that only God would have. Let us assume this. Now, if you take this 80% as the absolute maximum that is attainable, This is a logical fallacy. You would not be able to have 80% knowledge and still make sense. This is why. Because even the mere existence of that 80% depends on the 20% that is lacking. How can you claim 80% knowledge is attainable when the mere existence of that 80% relies on knowledge being greater than that 80%? For example, there cannot be two apples. You say, I have two apples in my hand. I haven't seen apples before. So I say, can you show me one apple so I know what two apples means? You say, no, I cannot show you one apple. I can only show you two apples. You must trust me that this is two apples. But I say to you, show me one apple so I know what one apple looks like before showing me two apples. This is the same theory. This is what Rene Descartes said. He said, I think, therefore I am. Your mere existence and your mere thoughts this is something you cannot unprove. You can, every other thing that you ever exists on earth, you can have doubts on. The only thing that you cannot have doubt on is your mere thought. How can you max out on 80% if consciousness and having, because this 80% didn't exist prior to the beginning of the universe, it does not mean that there was no beginning to the universe. Because the universe existed, there was this matter that created the universe. There was this knowledge, this data of information that was there prior to the creation of universe and conscious itself. So 80% cannot even be the maximum of a knowable thing because there is data outside of 10% of that 80%. There was mere existence of particles before time, universe itself began even. Now you might argue that this does not prove God. It just proves that there was particles prior to the creation of the universe, and there'll probably be particles after the universe ends, and there'll probably be things that fall outside of this 80%. That's just data. That doesn't have to do anything with having creation or a presence of God. Now this is an irrational argument because if we as humans with 10% of knowledge have conscience, then how can an entity, how can something that has existed, this knowledge of database of things that has existed before time, before the creation of universe, and something that will go on after the creation of universe, that created conscious itself, this data that we have, this universe, then how can it not have conscience if the creation itself has conscience? It could be that the creator itself has a conscious that is above conscious, maybe outside our realm of knowledge. But the minimum it can have is conscience, because we have conscience. And to say that the universe is just merely, or knowledge is just knowledge without actual divine presence, is like saying a car exists that is made of gibberish material. Now, this gibberish material, this manufacturer of the car has never heard of this. He cannot find it in a store. He's never ever even come across this gibberish material. But out there is a car that is made of gibberish material. This would be nonsensical, because how can you produce an item from an object that the object itself doesn't actually exist? This is nonsensical. So from this, we conclude that there must be an ever-present God, and it has to be omnipotent, has to be omniscient, and it has to be omnipresent. And any other argument would be illogical and irrational to believe. Thank you.